Keep it clean, though. This is a family program. I was reminiscing with somebody. I think this show's been on, it's going on 24 years now, I think. I think it'll be probably 24 years this summer. So, if you figure, if you do 20, okay, so if you do 50 shows a year, in 24 years, that'd be 1,200. Now we haven't done quite that many, 1,100 and something, but still quite a few. All right, so I've been thinking about it. I want to play this guitar. I've been reaching for it quite a bit when I teach lessons in my studio. Say Gibson, not just any Gibson, but it's a more contemporary one made in Bozeman, Montana. It's a Montana Gibson, and this is, I've had it in the show a couple times before, but it's made out of all kinds of like local woods. The neck is actually maple. The fingerboard is black walnut. A lot of times, necks are made out of like Honduras mahogany, from Honduras. And fingerboards are like ebony from Africa or rosewood from India or someplace. The top is Sitka spruce, which is something we have. I mean, we have Sitka, in our country, right? And Bob's here. It's kind of funny. I was just telling somebody when you start the show off, Donna was the first one to get here. She started here got here about 4 minutes before the show started. And now you're here about 4 minutes after the show started. And Skobinski should be here in about 5 minutes. And then we'll all be...
You'd think we were the musicians, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I got here before the show. Anyway.
So we're doing it backwards.
That's right.
The musician's right on time. Well, Donna's... She must be our business manager. She's in here ahead of time.
Yeah.
The rest of us come straggling in.
That's right. But anyway, what I was saying about this guitar, though, is it's all like local woods. It's not exotic woods from faraway tropical countries, Africa, like Honduras or whatever, India. It's local stuff. The back and sides are some sort of walnut. As I said, the fingerboard is black walnut. The binding is black walnut. So anyway, I've been playing this guitar a lot lately. Now, Bob, I don't know if you would believe this, but I went back to work at Coe College yesterday. But since I was in Cedar Rapids already, I went to the Guitar Center, which shouldn't surprise you. They had interesting things. They had the little banjo-lele, little ukulele banjo from Good Time, which I really wanted at one time, and I almost bought. They had one used, but I bought another one some time ago, and it's at least as good. So, and there's a pretty nice, fairly cheap Spanish electric flamenco guitar. But I have two of those already, and then an electric classical guitar, and they're all from Spain. So I left,
You told me you came away without buying anything?
Right, I didn't buy anything at all anywhere. But I did go around the corner to West Music of Marion. And there they had a blowout price on a Breedlove. And I don't know, I've been bringing...
Yeah, you've had several Breedloves in here. I
have 3. So I'm not saying I don't have a problem. Fortunately, my advice, what I want aren't illegal. I mean, so they have one because it's like last year's model or something, and it's a Dreadnought. I was, and a couple of years ago, I really wanted to get that one to complete my set. They had one hanging on the wall there, been there for too long, or nobody was interested in it, and I immediately recognized, what it was. So I'm not, I don't mean to denigrate people from Marion, and if you're from Marion, denigrate means put down, but. I'm sorry, I paraphrased somebody else's joke, but yeah, anyway, Steve Martin, or not Steve Allen. It's a Steve Allen joke. I don't like country music, but I don't mean to denigrate people who like country music. And those who do like country music, denigrate means put down. That was his, anyway, you know that joke. Yes. Probably. Oh, yeah, of course you do. Anyway, so I didn't, so the only thing is it buzzed up the neck a little bit, and the repair guy was at lunch. I had to, come back to Iowa City to do other things. I had lessons to teach and stuff. I was just basically slumming and spending more time I shouldn't have in the Cedar Rapids metro area. And basically the repair guy was going to straighten it out for me. And then I got kind of excited today. I thought, I have to go back up there on Friday because I got to teach on Friday at Coe College. And so I thought I could fix it up for me, and then we'll see. Because I've been like squirreling away little bits of money in my account. I could pull this off, right? It wouldn't ruin me financially. It would just slow me down a little bit. My main objective is to acquire more guitars and then try to pay my bills. And then there's like eating and stuff. I don't have a large clothing budget, as you can probably tell. So anyway, this is a boring story, but I'll just compete just a little bit long. Just going to go a little farther with it. So I went to West Music of Coralville, and I talked to the guys there, and I told them about it. And they, and the guy, behind the counter, who's like, who ranks higher than the guy behind the counter at the smaller Marion store, I guess. He said, well, we can just have it transferred down here. I shouldn't have told him. So this other guy, see, the reason I didn't take it home today was because it was the other guy's day off. You see, in Marion. So to make my short story just a little bit longer, so now the guy from the Coralville store wants to transfer it down so he can sell it to me. You see. Now I could just not buy it. You think? What do you think? You don't believe that?
Yeah, I don't think you've gone into remission yet.
Okay, well, yeah. I told the guy behind the counter at the music store in Marion, up there north of here, that I had a really bad case of gas, guitar acquisition syndrome. But he immediately knew what that meant. He knew what gas was. He only has 32 guitars. See, but he has a case of it, but not as bad as me. Of course, he wasn't as old as me, and then he said that there was a T-shirt that said, I don't need another guitar, said no one ever. So anyway, it's a problem. You see, because buying a guitar feels good, and then, so buying another one, it must feel even better. See?
Yeah.
Anyway, I heard a little public radio thing about heroin addiction, and as far as I could tell, I'm not a heroin addict because I don't do any heroin, but it sounds similar. Anyway, all right. So I'm playing this though. I've been. The thing about this is I never quite got the sound I wanted out of it when I plugged it in. It's a nice guitar, it's not plugged in. But what I did is I plugged it into another amplifier that I already had. So I have, you can't see it, but it's okay. It's a Fishman Loudbox Artist. Now usually I plug it into my guitars into the Mini. Yeah, there it is. So this is like the same amp that I usually use, only this is a bigger version, the next size up. And I think it sounds actually pretty good. Sorry about the F natural. Well, maybe I'll get in trouble. That was Song for a Winter's Night by Gordon Lightfoot. Apparently he wrote it during a torrential rain in a motel in Ohio. but it's about snow piling up in Canada and wishing somebody was there with him. Being Gordon Lightfoot, one little lyric is, "My glass is almost empty." See, up there they like that Canadian Club stuff. It's kind of a syrupy whiskey. Anyway, I don't never touch the stuff. I take away from my guitar buying money. I can think about this. See, the thing is, like,
One thing about spending on guitars, after you spend it, you got something to show for it.
that's right.
You buy whiskey, then it's gone.
That's right. You wake up maybe in your bed with a headache, maybe on the floor, maybe in a jail cell with a headache. You could have like liver damage and maybe a few less brain cells. And if I fall down dead, my widow can go into business, used guitar business. Banjos alone should keep her going a couple weeks.
You have to get your hit first, though.
Oh yeah.
So make the instruments into collector's items.
That's right. Yeah. This is just a used Gibson guitar here. It's not a. I mean, I guess I'm the star of Tom's Guitar Show, but if I got a big ego over this, that would be kind of a. Yeah. Maybe a bizarre sort of thing, I would think, but anyway. Yeah. So I. Well, anyway, yeah. So the thing is, though, that this is a time of year, the blessed time of year, that the NAMM show will be in a couple of weeks, or a few weeks. It's in the 25th, 26th, something like that, of this month. So it's the National Association of Music Merchandisers, NAMM. And I've been to 2 of these trade shows in my time. So they go around to all the booths and stuff. We talked about this before, I went to one like 1983 and one in 2005, I think. But I'm not going, of course. And I mean, I could probably figure out some way to get in, but I'm not. I don't like work for a music store or a music company. I work for Tom's Guitar Studio. Anyway, the thing is that the new models for this year are coming out, and which is like exciting, It's not like exciting; it is exciting. New Reverend guitar is supposed to come out. They got some new Bakelite neck or something. They're going to like bake on the finish to make it really wonderful or something like that for the necks. I don't know what's it going to be like. The Guild is set to launch their F50, which is this great big jumbo guitar. It was around in the 60s, 70s, and even the early 80s. And then, Guild fell on hard times and stuff. It's been bought and rebought. And Cordova Guitars own them now. And they're building these in California, in the same town where they're building the high-end classical guitars. So I'm, anyway, but, and I don't know if I'm violating anything because I'm not selling it, I'm not doing it in a commercial and stuff, but it's going to be like over $3,000 for one of those guitars, you see. Which is why I've been squirreling away small amounts of money to buy something, and I could get a closeout dreadnought that's, significantly cheaper than that. Or I could just keep, because NAMM usually for the music business people, they tell me that it's not available till mid-May. See, they do the trade show and they show you all these instruments, but they're not available till mid-May. Or it used to be mid-March, but then, things changed. But anyway, so I would, I don't know. Do I need a great big elephant of a, I don't know, man, I don't need anything. All I need is this Gibson. And a bunch of other things. There we go. Nice dissolve. There we go. So I've been playing all these little gigs around, and I got this desire to be somehow oddly sophisticated with what I play, but I don't think people like it that much, kind of more a folk guitar thing seems to be something people like, that connect with better than some of the things I do. So this is the thing I just played for you. I don't think I played that in a really long time. My version is something that I heard Leo Kottke and who is it? Leo Kottke played it, and then Doc Watson played it, and then Doc Watson and Leo Kottke played it together a really long time ago. And I did the guitar player thing, The joke that I live by, how many guitar players does it take to screw in a light bulb? You know that one, don't you, Bob? 101?
One to do it, 100 to say, I could do that better.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, it's not I can do that better. It's I can do that. I can do that, but I don't know. The guy who first told it to me said, I can do that, and he had an inflection in his voice. But yeah, there are all these jokes. I got one student who's my latest student on Monday nights. He always wants a joke to take home to his family. There's a little girl and everything. I didn't tell him the one about, what do you call a guitar player who breaks up with his girlfriend? Homeless, yeah, of course, yeah. And, things like that. I think he did take home the one. What's the difference between a park bench and a guitar player?
One can support people.
One can support a family of four. Yeah. Difference between a guitar player and a U.S. savings bond?
One matures and makes money.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I hope I don't run out of them. I probably wouldn't, would I? I mean, if the guy comes to my house 50 times a year, I might start running out of them. The homeless joke, though, is often attributed to drummers. There are a lot of drummer jokes. Now, the banjo player joke, which you actually gave me the much superior punchline for, like what did the banjo player get on his IQ test?
Barbecue sauce.
See, that is probably the best joke. I told that to the guy. He liked it a lot, but it wasn't a guitar joke because he wasn't a guitar player. He's actually an electric guitar. He wasn't a banjo player. He's an electric guitar player. So the guy with the Telecaster is kind of far from the banjoist. How many bluegrass musicians does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. They won't touch anything electric. Which it also works for classical guitar. So anyway, we're just doing our thing.
I figured maybe 1 in 20 to say that ain't the way Bill did it.
Yeah, that's right. That's a mandolin player joke. Bill Monroe.
Yeah.
Yeah. The banjo version is
banjo. Okay, yeah.
That's Earl. Yeah. Anyway, Earl did it. Yeah, that's the. I tell that one early on to people about the banjo because there's a thing about Earl Scruggs, and he was a great guy, but people want to follow somebody. They want to be just like that person. It's like a hero worship thing, And I don't think Earl was that kind of guy because he kept changing and evolving his technique and everything he did. Also, he'd play with anybody, apparently. He just played with all kinds of different people. And not much of a redneck, kind of a free thinker. And so the problem with banjoists, I think banjo students that I might work with, is that maybe they want to play exactly like Earl Scruggs. But the more I learn about Earl Scruggs, and I study Earl Scruggs and have been since I was a teenager, I guess. I suppose you could probably do your dissertation on Earl Scruggs. You could write books about him and stuff like that. So you think, oh man, what's about Earl is you might play like Earl in the 40s, Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs, Earl in the 60s or the 70s, or when he was an old man.
There's a joke.
What?
What's the first thing you know?
Old Jed's a Millionaire. Yeah. There we go. I played that for somebody recently. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was a banjo student. I played that for him. Yeah. So, first yawn. Yeah. Oh man. Try this tuner here. Pretty close. That's probably my Fender. Actually, the guitar sounds out of tune to me, but the tuner says it's okay. But you know, I don't believe everything I read. Oh well, I'll put a little tuner on there. Anyway, okay, so here I am goofing around with these guitars. And today it's this one. It's one of those things I'll get a guitar and then I go through that guitar acquisition remorse thing, which people do. And I have known people who have, like squandered their paycheck, on some vice or something like that. But they have wife and kids, and they're going to go home broke. And they, there's a song used to be, dang me, they ought to take a rope and hang me. Remember that one? I don't forget who did it, but it was
Roger Miller.
Roger Miller, okay, yeah. It was a self-recrimination song. Yeah. Wasn't he like, he did some things wrong?
6 rounds bought, and I bought 5.
Yeah.
Spent the groceries and half the rent, got $14. I like $14.37.
Yeah. That's the kind of, yeah. So anyway, I don't know why I brought that up, but yeah, that's a classic.
Blowing all your money on something.
Right. Well, yeah, and I kind of have that issue, but I don't know, man. I could be happy with this, couldn't I? Or could I? Anyway, yeah. Well, people do that. I know this thing. I've seen people, ruin themselves financially. I knew a young fellow ruin himself. A guitar player bought like an old guitar from the '60s or something like that, a Gibson ES 335, and maybe it was a 320 or 330 or 305. I don't know. It was one of those. They don't make it anymore. But anyway, it was and it was an interesting old guitar, but it's kind of a Personally, I think he could have done better with something more contemporary and much cheaper. But this young fellow just got done with Kirkwood. He works in a store, and he took all the money he could scrape up and bought this guitar. And as a young fellow with gas, it's just starting. He's probably 20. I don't know. Anyway, some poor guy I know.
Collector's items are like that. Yeah. You can get the same thing with no collector's item attached to it for a lot less.
Right. Well, probably, you could find, I've been going through this Gibson ES 335 Desire thing. And I've thought about it quite a bit. And I also think about some other, the ES 175 Gibsons and stuff like this, the hollow body electric guitars. And they're different, they're completely different construction. And I kind of want one or the other or both, But I managed to get some really decent, significantly cheaper guitars, as in less than $1,000 instead of slightly less than $3,000. And I think they really work better in some ways. Maybe they sound better, they look different, and they don't have that collectible nostalgic thing, but they're working real well for me. So anyway, that's sort of my thing. All the cameras are pointing at Bob here.
Maybe I should do something.
This one's having some lighting issues. I think this might be better.
Okay. You're still looking a little bit blue behind the glasses there. Yeah.
The side of my head was kind of blue, wasn't it?
Am I blue? Bob's got the blues. Should do some of Bob's blues.
Now, since number 2's on me, you probably want to point number 1 at Tom.
We probably need a Bob light here.
Well, they just need to dial or something about 2 notches when they point at me.
Something like that, yeah, it should help.
Should we mention your upcoming appearances?
Well, yeah, this week will be pretty tame. It'll be the Tuscan Moon. Friday, Saturday night in beautiful downtown Kelowna, Iowa, about 20 miles or less south of here. Appearing at the Tuscan Moon. It's supposed to start at 6. I'll probably start around 6:30. This is, it's kind of a slow season. It might be busy. I mean, I'd make reservations if I wanted to go, if I were going to go. I mean, I've already got a place to sit. I have a stool there. But it could be like, totally packed, but probably not. The party season's mostly over. Although I will say that people are having their Christmas parties now to avoid the rush.
Well, sometimes it's awful hard to get a reservation in December.
Yeah, so we're in that sort of, well, I wouldn't say dead, but sort of like slow slump between New Year's and Valentine's Day. Then you get a big rush on Valentine's Day, and then it dwindles off through March. That's when people in their business start to question their career choices and stuff, and then late April things start going, and May start to happen, and then June it's just wild and crazy, and making up all the money for all the money you lost in March, and then you go boom, and they go through the holiday season. There's ups and downs, it's sort of and then boom, there you are again after New Year's, waiting for Valentine's Day. So that's what I'm dealing with. Later on this month,
July and August, you're out there on the patio.
Yeah, June, July, August. Yeah, I mean May, even if it's warm enough, it's part of September. That's where it's really it's really nice, but it's not that big a place indoors. But outside is really something that's really humming. Also, a couple things are coming up. I've got some things coming up. One thing that's interesting, other than the Marion Arts Council shindig I'm doing up in Marion, Iowa, but I'm doing a youth choir, like honor choir, whatever gig, something called Banjo Sam, which I'm a little bit nervous because it sounds kind of like a minstrel song, but they need a banjoist who could read, not just English but music. Yeah, so feeling your own joke, and I probably said this before. The only 3 people I know who could do that are me, my student who graduated last year from Coe College, who took a thing in banjo, and he was a jazz guitarist that took a classical guitar thing, and that was last semester he took extraneous instruments, mandolin and banjo. So he could probably do the part without too much difficulty. I had another guy last semester who's not back this semester, unfortunately, who learned how to read music, but he's nowhere close to being ready for a thing like that. So I don't know how many banjo players there are around who can read standard notation. They usually do tablature, and there are a lot of.
What about all the guys that used to work at Shakey's before they went away?
Well, see, a lot of times those weren't bluegrass people. They were doing like a plectrum banjo thing. That's a different thing altogether. It's a different tuning. It's a 4-string banjo. I mean, I don't know, maybe there are other people doing stuff, but that was a holdover from like a jazz ragtime banjo thing from the early 20th century. We wore the striped jackets and the straw skimmer hat.
Sing those sing-along songs.
Yeah.
Should be coming around the mountain. And
Right, but a lot of those people I would think a lot of those people could read just fine. But, that was a different. So I'm not going to bore you with my whole lecture on the history of banjo. These are the sort of things that I think about a lot.
Different style playing.
Yeah, well, they're different styles. Okay, so the banjo has a lot of things, but in the 1920s, early 1920s, it was a very popular band instrument. You play in the band. It's like drums with strings on it and chords. And there's a plectrum banjo style. There's a tenor banjo, which are 2 different kinds of banjo. But they had 4 strings. So the 5th string, the short string, is on the middle and on the 5th fret of a bluegrass banjo. So those were, and some of those people, I mean, they could play all kinds of different things. And they would read charts and complicated chords and stuff, and they play with a pick. A lot of strummy stuff. So then, and also in the band, you often would have a tuba playing the bass. So you have a banjo and a tuba. And then, like, about 1926 or so, probably with the invention of the microphone and everything, things changed. So the guitar took over for the chords, and that, that caused a huge explosion of guitar, innovation and so forth, and styles of playing. And then the string bass took over for the tuba. And, before, when you were recording, for instance, you had this big cone. It's like, and the cone would scratch, the impression of the vibrations into acetate, or whatever it was, and they would, so everybody had to be like a certain distance from that cone, the big cone. So they didn't have electronic microphones, so they invented the amplifier and the microphone and stuff, and everything changed. And then it wasn't that long after. Guitars got a lot bigger in the late 20s, early 30s, and a lot louder, and they got, and then they, not long after that, they started.
Somewhere there in the 30s, electric guitars came along.
Yeah, right after that, they started putting pickups on them and stuff like that. So, so after that, the only people left playing banjo were the hillbillies. And another aside thing I'll say was a tenor banjo, which is tuned like a viola in fifths. It's a completely different tuning system than your bluegrass banjo. At that era, when the banjo just died, you couldn't get a job playing the banjo anymore. Kind of like the accordion at a certain point in history, too. Those people could immediately transfer over and start playing the tenor guitar. The tenor guitar existed, but it wasn't that popular. But what they do is they put 4 strings on a guitar instead of 6, make it a little smaller, and tune it the same as the tenor banjo. So the tenor guitar became really popular. And there are a lot of people out there playing tenor guitars. But what they were frustrated banjoists. So you could, like, give up your career, learn how to do something useful, like be a plumber or something like that, or you could transfer over. Because if you can play tenor banjo, playing tenor guitar is just, one quick lateral transfer. So these are sort of things I know. I happen to know the pro shop over there, Musicians Pro Shop, has a tenor guitar and a tenor banjo. And I'm often somewhat tempted by either or both of those. I managed to restrain myself. They remain in the inventory because very few people are as boring as me about these subjects. But they sound different. I mean, one's a banjo and one's a guitar. They sound like a banjo and a guitar, but they're really different. The way you play them, the way they sound, the bluegrass thing is different. And maybe someday maybe I can borrow that one tenor, and I can bring my Irish tenor, which is something else in its stringing and things, and then of course, one of my bluegrass 5 strings, or maybe 2 of them, because I have one that's for bluegrass and one that's for old time music, and then I can just like bore people with this,
Oh, your accordion reminds me. When I was a kid in the 50s, I took accordion.
Right.
And they were everywhere.
Right.
My grade school had to put an accordion section in the band because so many of us, they came around and wanted us to play a
Right.
trombone or something. We were already taking accordion lessons. Our parents were saying, we're paying for an accordion, we're not going to buy a trombone.
That's right. So you have a whole
And
accordion
in the 60s,
section.
they just went away.
Yeah, it wasn't cool anymore at all. Just like the banjo wasn't cool anymore after like 1926. So the only people left playing them were like people doing polka bands and stuff. But the same thing with like the lap steel guitar. Those are like the
They were big in the 50s.
Yeah, they're big in the 50s and before that. They had like I don't know exactly how long the run of the lap steel was. I mean, the Hawaiian guitar thing came in like the very late 19th century, early 20th century. And then that was one of the first thing to get the pickup on it was the steel. And anyway, so I guess what I'm nattering on about is that I knew people who were like much older than me who would talk about the traveling sales people going, to farms. Yeah. And they had a choice. You get an accordion or a steel guitar. Not the pedal steel that you see in the country bands, but just a lap steel. It's a 6 or 8 string thing you sit in your lap and you play with a slide. They didn't have clarinets or guitars. Those are the 2 things that they sold.
Yeah, well, there were 2 big schools in Peoria that the accordion was their main instrument.
Mm-hmm.
They had
Sure.
marimbas and a few other things too, but mostly accordions.
Not that many violins, probably.
No, we didn't have violins.
See, yeah. When I was a kid, we had really good symphony orchestra. We didn't, one would almost never see an accordion. If you did, it was like a beat up one on display at somebody's house. You know, it was their uncle's.
But you were a '60s kid. I was a '50s kid.
Yeah, that's right. See, and I was a '70s kid. I mean, like I was, you know, as a child, I went to junior high in '69,
Oh,
and then '69 I switched over from violin to string bass in the orchestra. Then I played in the jazz band. But the jazz bands in schools are usually like behind, so we were playing swing music from the '40s, kind of stuff that the band director, you know, grew up with. And so I mean, I was, which is cool because I was playing the, you know, pizzicato bass, and I played in the symphony. I did guitar too, but you know, there's a lot of classical music. I was in Iowa City too, in College Town, you know. But they, yeah, interesting how these things go. I wonder though, I should be playing guitar instead of musing and reminiscing. But so when I played a party for a large hog producer, like 800,000 hogs a year that go to market, there's one guy. Of course, he has a lot of people working for him and with him, like 100 people work, you know, not all maybe for him, but they're, you know, suppliers
Right.
and people driving trucks and stuff. So I was playing a party for a whole bunch of people, and last Friday, and you know, I looked at these people. They were, I mean, even the management kind of people were younger than me. They're like, you know, 50 or so, and a lot of people there probably around 30-ish, give or take, you know, 34, 27, or some, who knows. And I was thinking, I better play some more contemporary stuff because, see, my employers, like Paula at the Tuscan Moon, she likes Frank Sinatra because she's a Sicilian background, Italian neighborhood in New Jersey is where she grew up. And she's like 70, you know, I shouldn't fire it. But she was the baby of the family. She was, you know, born much later than her siblings. So, you know, so she was born, so she was born in 47. And, but I mean, her sister, next sister down, born in 37. So Frank Sinatra was a big star for this kind of Italian neighborhood. They were so proud of him. Italian guy makes good, you know. And she loves all those old songs. But almost nobody else cares about Frank Sinatra that I deal with. And so I'm playing the people who are like 60-something, maybe 70, you know, in their 60s, who, you know, can afford that kind of wine or whatever, like that expensive bottle of wine, the $35 steak, whatever. They like, you know, I'm playing rock and roll favorites. I've learned all these stuff. The Rolling Stones, my my classical guitar version of Whoa, 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 listen to the music. You know, I'm playing Doobie Brothers. And I'm playing the Eagles. That's what people want. So, you know, Rolling Stones, Eagles, Doobie Brothers. Some people like the Beatles, some people hate the Beatles. That's always controversial. If I play the Rolling Stones, the Beatles lovers don't get offended. But if I play the Beatles, the Rolling Stones people get offended. So I'm playing all this, I'm just like cranking out tunes, which is interesting because I get a really good workout every week. And so I guess what I'm saying is like you know, times change. Yeah. If I've learned a bunch of things that maybe, you know, Frank Sinatra or even Bing Crosby would sing. I've got somewhat of a repertoire. Those people are getting kind of long in the tooth.
yes.
I played in a nursing home a while ago, and some of those songs went over real well. So, anyway.
And some of them were going, where's Bill Haley?
Right. I was thinking, what if I played Time After Time, the Cyndi Lauper song? Yeah. You know, like play it time after time. But if you're playing for people who are like 30, that song came out before they were born. You see, that's like early 80s. So
Last week, PBS ran the last concert that all the original Beach Boys played. And my wife heard it and came in and said, do they look really old? Well, it was like in the 80s.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, you know, time passes. And, I keep telling people this. It's like Bob Dylan, time is a jet plane, it moves too fast. Time is a jet plane, it moves too fast. What a shame that all we've shared can't last. I can change, I swear. Oh, see what you can do. Anyway, I can make it through, you can make it too. Anyway, I'm sorry, Bob Dylan. That song came out in the early 70s. So it's 10 years before my audience there came out, so to speak. So I know I keep nattering on about it, but of course I have a kind of a classical music orientation. I like classical music, and I've been playing the classical guitar stuff. There's this kind of Spanish romantic thing, which is like the like not romance and lovers, but I mean like the romantic, movement. A little bit later than maybe it was in more northern Europe. So it's like you lose your empire and you get into your Spanish pride, and stuff like that. But a lot of that stuff, goes back to the later 19th century, early 20th century, and so that's before my time, you see. So now I'm here. I've been doing these things, and I learned this. If I try to be a classical guitarist, I mean, there are a whole bunch of really good classical guitarists who graduate from some of the better music schools than the ones I teach at, and some that have been around for a while, and their careers can go well into their 70s or beyond. And there's not that much room for a guy like me, and it's really hard work to do like all this. There's Jason Vio, who is a really great classical guitarist. He's recording all kinds of interesting stuff. But he's like the Joshua Bell of classical guitar. But most of us aren't going to get any kind of gigs. I mean, I can get a wedding, or maybe I can get a little recital, and there'll be 40 people to show up. I've done that. Free will offering, I get $37, and I go to Hy-Vee. I've been there. But as far as like going out and playing gigs, I can do all my sort of fingerstyle classical guitar technique and have my own little challenges and say, how could I turn a Doobie Brothers song into a guitar solo? But of course, it's not necessarily. I mean, it's not as good as having like a wonderful concert career